You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk. And it was a short show yesterday, only 2 big stories plus the Ostrowski interview. Today, no interview, but a bunch of stories. Saving them all for today, evidently. I'm not going to talk too much about Packers-Niners. It was a romp. It was over in the third quarter. The only thing I'll say is this is what happens when you're extremely short-handed. You know, I give Kyle Shanahan credit for trying to piece together something, but Nick Mullins isn't a great quarterback. No one's going to be mistaking him for John Brody anytime soon. Does he have some talent? Yeah, he has a little bit of talent, but ultimately he made some bad decisions. And it's going to be a tough second half of the season for the Niners. As for the Packers, like I said, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. But they really need another wide receiver. The broadcast yesterday spoke a lot about the rumors that the Packers were talking to the Texans about Will Fuller. But they just couldn't agree on adequate compensation. Fuller would have been absolutely perfect for the Packers. Fuller is having a really good season. He's leading the Texans in receiving yards, touchdowns, and yards per game. I find it kind of surprising that the Texans wouldn't just take the highest offer they could. I mean, the Texans are 1-6. What are they saving Fuller for? A big second half run? That's not going to happen. But regardless, he's still a Texan, and Aaron Rodgers needs another weapon. Davante Adams can't do it all himself. I mean, the Niners' defense just played like garbage. I was really surprised how Adams kept getting open. You know Rodgers is going to look to him first on every single play. Double him, triple him, do whatever you have to do to prevent him from getting open. Hopefully it can be Marquise Valdes-Scantling. I do have him on my fantasy team, and I did start him yesterday, so hey, I got 2 touchdowns out of it. I'm happy. I don't care that he only had 2 catches. They both went for touchdowns. So, I am a happy Jacob right now. But Valdes-Scantling also had a big drop. Rodgers needs some help. If the Packers are really going to go on a big run, their defense needs to get fixed. You can't allow 2 late touchdowns. And you also need to give Aaron Rodgers some help. But other than that, there's not much to talk about. The game was a complete joke. Instead, I want to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders becoming the first team to lose a draft pick because of coronavirus violations. The Raiders will lose the highest of their 2 sixths. They have their 6th, and they have Washington's 6th. So whichever one is higher, presumably it'll be Washington's. That's the one to lose. The Raiders have been fined $1.2 million in total for violating the NFL's coronavirus protocols. A bunch of players were at a charity event and they weren't wearing masks, namely Derek Carr. John Gruden's gotten fined. The Raiders as an organization are basically saying, you know what, we're not going to listen to you. We're going to do whatever we want. That doesn't work in the NFL. You can't fight City Hall. You can't fight Roger Goodell. I mean, the NFL sees the writing on the wall here. You have coronavirus cases going up dramatically in this country. It is very possible that we can go into a second lockdown. If that happens, does sports survive? Can the NFL or any other sports league say, hey, we're still going to play? Will they be allowed to? Will fans still be in some stadiums? The league sees the writing on the wall. They want to show that they're taking this seriously. They can't control whether every single team takes it seriously, but what they can do is punish the teams that aren't taking it seriously. Now, you've got some Raiders fans screaming bloody murder. They're pointing to a team like the Titans and saying, look at what happened with them. They had a huge COVID outbreak, and they didn't get docked a draft pick. You gotta think the Raiders are gonna fight this. Mark Davis will channel his father. But ultimately, I don't think it's gonna matter. First up, the Titans argument means nothing. The Titans had one coronavirus violation that led to their big outbreak. This is numerous times that the Raiders have been cited for violating the NFL's COVID protocol. The league has to show that they're serious. It's clear that fines haven't worked. The next logical step is docking a draft pick. And then maybe a higher draft pick. And then maybe forfeiting a game. The league needs to show that they're serious about this. What they've done so far hasn't registered within the Raiders organization. Maybe the 6th will register. I mean, it's a 6th round pick. It's not nothing. The obvious example is Tom Brady. But it's not like it's a first rounder or anything. The Raiders will have another 6th. It's not the end of the world, but hopefully it sends a message to the Raiders that you have to take this seriously. And it says to other teams, you better follow our protocols. We're serious about this. This isn't nothing. Hopefully all the teams get the message. But now it's time for me to make my 3 NFL picks. I'll give you a couple favorites right away. I like the Ravens -2 over the Colts. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think the Ravens are better than the Colts. At the end of the day, I think Phillip Rivers isn't going to be able to get much going against this Ravens defense. The Ravens are a top 10 defense in any category you want to look at. Total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, points allowed per game, third down percentage. The Ravens defense is in the top 10 in every single one of those categories. Phillip Rivers has not impressed me this year. The Colts rushing attack hasn't impressed me this year. I'm not giving up on Jonathan Taylor. I just don't think he's great. I don't think he's going to do that much against this stout Ravens defense. This is going to be a low-scoring game. I think the Ravens are going to win it, and I think they're going to win it by at least 3 points. Give me the Ravens -2, and give me the Chiefs -10.5 over the Panthers. Last week I picked the Chiefs when they were big favorites. I ended up hitting on that bet. Everyone was taking the Jets in that game. It's like, no. The Jets are going to lose by at least 3 touchdowns. Come on, that's ridiculous. I was right. I went 2-1 last week. I'm 10-2 the last 4 weeks. I'm going to go to the well again. Chiefs -10.5. The Panthers are a solid team. They're not great. They're not terrible. They're 3-5. Regardless of whether the Chiefs win by at least 11 points, I think we can agree that the Chiefs are going to win this game, so the Panthers are going to fall to 3-6. They're not that good. They're okay. They have talent. But overall, they're just no match for the Chiefs. I think they're going to win by at least a touchdown and a field goal. I think Le'Veon Bell is going to get more involved in the offense. Patrick Mahomes will keep being Patrick Mahomes. Give me the Chiefs -10.5. And for my underdog, I'm going to do it. It may be crazy, but I'm going to do it. I like the Jets +7.5 on the Patriots on Monday night. I don't think the Jets are going to win this game by any stretch, but realize the Patriots are not playing well right now. The dynasty is dead. The Patriots have lost their last 4 games. The entire month of October, they only scored 28 points. This is not a good Patriots team. Yes, Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels are going to be able to scheme around this anemic Jets team. But ultimately, it's up to the players to execute. I think the Jets are going to lose, but I think they're going to lose by just a touchdown and an extra point. It'll be a close loss. It'll be a bad game. These are 2 bad teams. Every Pop Warner coach in the nation should force their teams to watch this game as an example of what not to do. I don't see a blowout here. Give me the Jets +7.5. So my picks are Ravens -2, Chiefs -10.5, and Jets +7.5. Alright, now I'll give you some baseball Valk talk. And this news broke just as I was posting yesterday's show. According to Bob Nightingale of USA Today, the Indians have told other teams that they are going to trade Francisco Lindor. He's been rumored to be on the block before, but this is the firmest indication we've ever gotten that he's gonna be traded. The Indians seem motivated to trade him sooner rather than later. The Indians are in a tough situation when it comes to their finances. The Indians, under their owner, Paul Dolan, James's cousin, so I guess bad ownership runs in the family, have been pretty gung-ho on cutting payroll the past couple years. They traded Edwin Encarnacion, they let Michael Brantley leave, they traded Trevor Bauer, they traded Corey Kluber, they traded Mike Clevenger, they got rid of Brad Hand. For whatever reason, Paul Dolan is saying he's not going to put money into the team. Obviously, that is an indefensible mindset to me. Every owner should put money into their team. I'm not saying you need to be the Yankees or the Dodgers handing out a bunch of big contracts. I understand that not all teams have that luxury. But there comes a point when you need to say, we're going to keep this guy around whatever it takes. The Reds did it with Joey Votto. The Rockies did it with Nolan Arenado. If you want to count the Angels with Mike Trout, you can. There comes a point when you just need to say this guy is so blasted talented that we're going to pay him no matter what. Now, I understand that Francisco Lindor didn't have the best season last year. He only hit .258, that's a career low. .335 on base percentage, that ties his career low. But this guy is one of the best shortstops in the game. Every single team in all of baseball should be interested in trading for this guy. In 2019, he hit .284 with 32 homers and 74 RBIs. He also had 22 steals. He won a Gold Glove. He is a fantastic player. I can't speculate on where he's going to go because I think every team should be in on him, like I just said. I've heard some people mention the Yankees. Look, if they don't bring back LeMahieu, then trade for Lindor. I don't mind that. But I'd rather bring LeMahieu back. If you're the Yankees, trading for Lindor probably costs you maybe 2 of Jason Dominguez, Davy Garcia, and Clark Schmidt, along with a couple other prospects. I'd rather keep those guys and bring back my MVP finalist, a guy who won the batting title, and one of the clutchest players in the game. If LeMahieu has his heart set on playing somewhere else, yeah, go all in on Lindor. I don't want Gregorius, I don't want Simmons, I want Lindor. That's the only way to make the loss of LeMahieu palatable. But I don't think the Yankees are in the cards. People are pointing to the Mets. New owners love to make splashes. It wouldn't get much splashier than trading for Francisco Lindor. Kind of brings up an interesting question of what you're going to do with Rosario. But Lindor is a million times better than Rosario. I like Rosario. I don't think he's a bad player. But if you can get Francisco Lindor, you move on from Rosario. The Indians may even say they want Rosario in the trade. He's going to turn 25 in 2 weeks. Solid player. They can put him in the short right away and he'll hold his own. Yeah, you're probably going to have to throw in a guy like maybe David Peterson or Andres Gimenez, but new owners love to make splashes. I was thinking of teams with great prospect depth. The Padres popped into my mind. Yes, they still have great prospect depth. Although I don't think Lindor makes much sense there. In the middle infield, they have Cronenworth and Tatis. They have Machado at third. Their outfield is set. God only knows what's going to happen with the DH. Padres don't make sense. It's really tough to speculate on where Lindor's going to go. But I'll say this. Shame on the Indians for cutting payroll this much. This was a team that, not that long ago, was set up for a deep playoff run. Remember in 2016, when they won the pennant? Came within one win of a World Series? After that, it's been all downhill. This is a big collapse. It's a collapse of their own doing. Instead of doubling down on their talented roster, the owner decided to cut payroll. You can't tell me he doesn't have the money to do it. To put together a team that can actually win a World Series. If he doesn't, then you know what? Sell the team to someone who does. Shame on the Indians. Their fans are going to have a tough few seasons in front of them. They've suffered for a long time. It looks like they're going to be in for some more suffering soon. Moving on now to the Red Sox, bringing back Alex Cora. That is right, the Red Sox brought their old manager back. Rob Manfred is nothing short of an idiot. You chose to punish the executives and the coaches rather than the players. Okay, fine. You know, you want to keep everything peaceful in advance of CBA negotiations. You want to get all the information possible by granting immunity. I don't like it, but whatever. If that's the route you want to go down, that's your choice. What got lost in that was that the Red Sox had their own sign-stealing scandal. Granted, the Astros went above and beyond, but the Red Sox weren't Boy Scouts. Without going too into it, the Red Sox's replay coordinator, J.T. Watkins, decoded signs from the in-game feeds and relayed it to the Red Sox on second base. Because of that, the Red Sox got stripped of their second rounder in this past draft. Watkins was suspended for this past season, and he's not going to be able to resume his previous role for this coming season. And that was it. Alex Cora was suspended, but not for what happened with Watkins. He was suspended for what happened with the Astros. Rob Manfred's report says, and I quote, "I don't find that then-manager Alex Cora, the Red Sox coaching staff, the Red Sox front office, or most of the players on the 2018 Red Sox knew or should have known that Watkins was utilizing in-game video to update the information that he'd learned from his pre-game analysis." Of course they knew. Of course they should have known. You mean to tell me that this replay coordinator took it upon himself to do this? You mean to tell me he wasn't acting under the direction of anyone? I mean, think. Use your noodle. Commissioner, I know that's hard for you. But think. Is a replay coordinator going to do that by himself? Of course not. Was he directed to by Alex Cora? I don't know. But to the point that Cora shouldn't have known, that is complete nonsense. Alright, I'm going to give you a little bit of a lesson here. Rob Manfred is actually an attorney. Before he got into Major League Baseball, he was a lawyer. He got his JD from Harvard. Well, evidently, I can go to Harvard Law. There is a concept in common law called respondeat superior. Basically, what that means is the superior is held accountable for his underlings' actions. So let's say that you're the president of company X, and your underlings break the law for whatever reason. Insider trading, misallocating funds, labor violations, whatever. Even though you, as the president of the company, may not have known about it, you can be held accountable if your underlings did that. That is respondeat superior. There is no way on this earth that Alex Cora shouldn't have known that Watkins was doing this. I don't care what Cora did with the Astros. That means nothing in terms of the Red Sox. I'm focusing on what Alex Cora did and didn't do when he was with the Red Sox. If he didn't know what Watkins was doing, he definitely should have known. There's no question about that. So now Cora gets to come back to the same organization that he said to his replay coordinator, do whatever you want, I'm not going to check you. Or if he didn't say that outright, the replay coordinator knew that he could do whatever he wanted. If he wanted to watch pornography in the replay room, evidently no one was there to stop him. You can't allow Alex Cora to go back to the Red Sox. One thing that got lost in this was that the commissioner should have said A.J. Hinch is banned from managing the Astros and Alex Cora is banned from managing the Red Sox. You can't let them come back. Sign stealing was going on when you were in charge, whether you knew about it or not. It was happening. And it shouldn't have been happening. You can't use garbage cans for it, and you can't use the replay room for it. So you're going to let the managers go back to the scene of the crime. Hinch went to the Tigers. I have no problem with that. He served his time. I wish him the best of luck in Detroit. God knows he's going to need it. But you cannot allow Alex Cora to go back to the Red Sox. This notion that he shouldn't have known what Watkins was doing is just wrong. He's the manager. Of course he should have known. You want to tell me that you can't punish him for what his underling did? Again, respondeat superior. Rob Manfred is a joke. He is the worst commissioner this sport has ever had. He is worse than Spike Eckert. He's worse than anyone. Peter Uberoff. Bud Selig, a lot of people didn't like Selig. I didn't mind him. He's worse than all of them. This guy needs to go. Baseball is failing. Its integrity is failing. The public image of baseball is garbage. If that doesn't fall on the commissioner, I don't know what does. This is a great hire by the Red Sox. They brought back their World Series winning manager. If they were allowed to bring him back, of course you bring him back. I don't care about Sam Fuld. I don't care about Carlos Mendoza. I don't care about anyone else. If you can bring back Alex Cora, you do it. That's the right decision. But they never should have been allowed to bring him back in the first place. Shame on Rob Manfred. One of the worst commissioners in sports history. Moving on from him to a great commissioner, Adam Silver and Michelle Roberts seem to be pretty close to a December 22nd start for the next NBA season. And they will play a 72-game schedule. Some players wanted to start January 18th. Last season ran incredibly long. Obviously, it took a big toll on them physically, a big toll on them mentally. They wanted a little extra time, but the NBA estimated that starting on December 22nd would save anywhere between $500 million to $1 billion in revenue. If you start in the middle of January, you're losing 12 games. That's huge. There are some other elements to this that need to be finalized. Escrow is a pretty big hurdle that needs to be cleared, but that's very doable. Shams Charania of The Athletic said that the freeze on transactions should end by November 16th. And the draft is on November 18th. So we're going to get trades before the draft. We're going to get trades during the draft. And then free agency. It's going to be like lightning. James Wiseman is going to be drafted on November 18th. And then 2 weeks later, he's going to be in training camp. No rest for the weary. Obviously, this isn't being done in a bubble. They're going to do the MLB/NFL model. They want to play games in home arenas in front of fans where it's allowed. Not all states are going to be okay with it. In which case, there's going to be a lot of travel among NBA fans. If New York doesn't allow fans in the stands, you can bet I'm gonna go to Pennsylvania to watch the Nets play the Sixers. I may even go to Massachusetts. The Raptors will not play in Toronto. You can't cross the border freely enough for that to happen. It seems like they're going to play in Newark. That's perfectly fine. The season is going to run from December 22nd through the middle of May. The NBA Finals are going to finish around July 22nd. The Tokyo Olympics are set to start on July 23rd. So let's say the Brooklyn Nets win the title and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving sign up to play in the Olympics. There's a chance they could go straight from the Barclays Center or whatever Western Conference team they're playing straight to Tokyo. No rest for the weary. I mean, you gotta think some players are gonna decline it. But this does open up the possibility for NBA players participating in the Olympics. Teams' travel will be reduced by 25%. There's going to be a 6-day break in early March. It seems like they're going to try to play an All-Star game. Good luck. And also, the league is hoping to conduct a play-in tournament for the final 2 seeds in each conference. The way it would work is, let's take last year's Eastern Conference standings as an example. 7 to 10 in order were the Nets, Magic, Hornets, and Wizards. The Wizards were so bad in the bubble that they actually fell to 10th. Unbelievable. The Nets would play the Magic to determine the 7th seed. The Hornets and Wizards would then play each other. The winner of the Hornets-Wizards game would go up against the loser of the Nets-Magic game to determine the 8th seed. You've got to think there were going to be some standings triggers. Like if you're X amount of games up, you don't have to worry about it. If you're under 500, you don't have to worry about it. Something like that. I don't like the idea of penalizing a 7th seed that is clearly the 7th best team in the conference. If you have 3 bad teams fighting it out for 8, what does that have to do with the 7th seed? If the 7th seed is good, it shouldn't affect them. Look, I liked the play-in tournament that the league had between the seeding games and the playoffs. I thought it was nice, but this just strikes me as too gimmicky. This needs to be worked out really well if we're going to get this done. I was okay with it in Disney because, you know, you can try new things in a bubble and see what sticks. But I don't think I like it for the indefinite future. Alright, now I'll give you some college football Valk talk, and I'll start with one of tonight's games. I hope you stay up late for this game, because this is going to be a great game. BYU versus Boise State. BYU is the best team in this country that we're not paying attention to, and we should. They're undefeated. They are so well-rounded. Zach Wilson is getting buzz as a potential top 5 draft pick. I don't think I'd go that far yet, but if he puts more impressive games on tape, I can possibly be convinced of that. He has some really good skill position players to work with. Tyler Algier, Lopini Katoa, Dax Milne, Gunnar Romney. I don't know if there's a relation to Mitt. Neil Pau'u, Isaac Rex. This is a talented BYU offense, and their defense is really good too. When you look at points against per game, they are the 11th best team in the nation. They're only allowing 13.5 points per game while putting up 44.5 points per game. And you wonder why they're undefeated. Tyler Batty, Isaiah Kaufusi, Kairis Tonga, Zach Dorr, George Udo, Troy Warner. These guys are incredibly talented players. I'm telling you, BYU is the best team in the nation that we're not paying attention to. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they got into a major bowl game. And when you look at Boise State, the big story there is that Hank Bachmeier is questionable for this game. Jack Sears started the last game, and he played well, but I'm not sure how much he's going to do against this stout BYU defense. Boise State has some talented players. George Holani, Khalil Shakir, C.T. Thomas. But even then, Holani is questionable for this game also. Their defense looks really good. Riley Wimpy, Shane Irwin, and Devine Obashir have each gotten a sack. They look pretty good. Tyrick LeBeouf has the only interception for the Broncos this year. But all in all, I just think Boise State is going to be hampered too much by injuries. I think they can keep this game close, but I think BYU wins by 2 scores. Give me the Cougars. Moving on now to Michigan versus Indiana. Look, I've been kind of flip-flopping on Jim Harbaugh. When I first started this show, I said he should go. He's never won a big game as Michigan head coach, and that speaks volumes to me. Last week, he lost to Michigan State. That's a big loss. He's never beaten OSU as Michigan head coach. You have to beat OSU if you're the Wolverines. Yet there are some Jets fans that seem to be okay with the idea of Harbaugh taking over as Jets head coach. I understand the success he had with the Niners, but he didn't win the big game there either. He lost in the Super Bowl. He lost in the NFC title game. I understand that we're light years away from worrying about a Super Bowl, but don't you want a coach who can win a big game? I'm torn on the idea of Harbaugh. I really am. The more I think about it, the more I'm just torn on it. There's no question that he's a smart guy. Really good football mind. Light years better than Gase. Light years better than Douglas. But Michigan has underwhelmed with him as head coach. I remember thinking that they were going to win national titles. They've never come close. With Harbaugh as head coach, the Wolverines' best record has been 10-3. They've done that 3 times. That's really good, but it's not great. Maybe Harbaugh's a little overrated. I don't know. I'm so torn on it. I see the argument both ways. I mean, I think we can all agree that Bieniemy is the correct choice for next Jets head coach, and I'm not going to focus too much on the Wolverines team. I talked about him last week. not much has changed. But if the Jets went with Harbaugh, I don't know how I'd feel. There are other college coaches who I would want instead of him, I'll tell you. Lincoln Riley, Dabo Swinney, maybe a guy like Ryan Day. Although I'd be worried about hiring Day since he may push hard for Justin Fields in the draft. Some coordinators make more sense than Harbaugh. Brian Dable, James Urban, Arthur Smith. Although the thing with Smith is, he's kind of viewed as a Ryan Tannehill whisperer, and the last time the Jets went with a Tannehill whisperer, they ended up with Gase. I don't think they go that route again. Although now that I'm really thinking about it, I think I'd rather have Harbaugh than Urban because Lamar Jackson has taken a big step back with his arm. He can still kill you with his legs, but not with his arm. It's tough. It's really, really tough. In my Jets offseason preview, I'm going to go through a big list of coaches. I just have to get the names all sorted out first. But when you look at the Hoosiers, they have some really talented players. Michael Penix Jr. is really exciting. Smart quarterback. Makes a lot of really good throws. Reminds me a little bit of Pennington. He's not as accurate as Pennington, but in terms of the short throws, being safe with the football, that's Pennington. Stevie Scott is a really good running back. Give him time, he'll get going. Whop Phillier is a really talented wide receiver. Peyton Hendershot is one of the best tight ends in the nation. Defensively, the Hoosiers are led by Taiwan Mullen and Jalen Williams. This is going to be a really close game. If you're Harbaugh, this is a marquee win. This is a really, really good Hoosiers team. You've shown an inability to win the big game. This is a big game. If you go out and win it, it'll shut a lot of the doubters up. I mean, it's really close. It wouldn't surprise me if either team won this game. It's 51-49. Ultimately, I'm going to say that Joe Milton kills the Hoosiers too much. I don't see anyone on that Indiana defense who can really slow Milton down. Give me the Wolverines. Moving on now to the big SEC matchup. Florida versus Georgia. The quintessential battle of a great defense versus a great offense. The great offense obviously belongs to the Gators. In terms of points per game, they are the 12th best team in the nation. They've scored 42 points per game. Kyle Trask is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation right now. He's getting Heisman buzz. He's completed just over 68% of his passes, 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. It doesn't matter that Florida doesn't have a great running game. I'm not sold on Dameon Pierce. Trask is so good at getting multiple receivers involved. Kyle Pitts is one of the best tight ends in the nation. Kadarius Toney, Trayvon Grimes, Malik Davis, Jacob Copeland. They're all really talented players. But when you look at this Georgia defense, it's your typical ground and pound team. I've said that before. Their defense is one of the best in the nation. Azeez Ojulari, Adam Anderson, Jalen Johnson, Channing Tindall, Richard LeCount III, Eric Stokes. The Bulldogs have only given up 16.2 points per game. That is the 14th best mark in the nation. But a couple weeks ago, Georgia showed that they couldn't hang around with a fantastic offense. Alabama lit them up like a Christmas tree. Mac Jones was insane. Najee Harris was insane. Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith were insane. It wouldn't surprise me if the Gators did that here. Even though it's in Georgia, give me Florida. The last game to talk about is the game of the week. Clemson versus Notre Dame. You have no idea how much I wish Trevor Lawrence was playing in this game. I put a lot of stock into how college quarterbacks play in big games. I don't care how you play against the Rutgers of the world or the Vanderbilts of the world. Sorry, Dad. I want to see how you play when the lights are on bright, the entire college football world watching. I understand that Lawrence has done that before, but the more tape, the better. He's still out with the coronavirus, and DJ Uiagalelei is going to get the start for the Tigers. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. I don't think I'm that far off. I did watch a couple YouTube videos on how to pronounce his name. Look, DJ is a talented player. Greg McElroy on ESPN's Get Up compared him to Jamarcus Russell when Russell was at LSU. It's a weird comparison, but it makes a little sense. There's a reason Russell was the first overall pick in 2007. You know, everyone points to DJ's charisma. A lot of people have said that he's a natural-born leader. Gets people to naturally gravitate to him. That's a good quality for a quarterback to have, but at the end of the day, all that really matters is how you throw the ball. And I gotta tell you, watching Clemson play last week, they didn't impress me. They almost lost to Boston College. They won by 6. They were down 28-13 at the half. Then the Tigers came back. They scored 21 unanswered points in the second half. That beats to DJ's charisma. I'm not going to say his last name again, okay? I'm just not. It reminds me too much of a Dave Seville song. Ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ching-chang, wada-wada, bing-bang. You only get one of those. I hope you liked it. Look, is DJ a natural-born leader? The answer is yes. I like that he rallied the troops to come back and beat an inferior Boston College team. But again, watching him last week, he didn't impress me a whole lot. The stats look good, but the eye test, I just wasn't impressed. His first half, he looked dreadful. Yes, Clemson has Travis Etienne, one of the best running backs in the nation, if not the best running back in the nation. Yes, they have a fantastic defense. Miles Murphy, Brian Bressie, Balin Spector, Jake Venables, Justin Maskell, Trenton Simpson, Xavier Thomas. They're all incredibly talented. But they're going to have to pick up the slack here. While you may like DJ's charisma, he's no Lawrence. And when you look at Notre Dame, I'm not a Notre Dame fan in general. I think they're always overrated. But this year, the hype is warranted. Ian Book is putting together a really, really good season. Can kill you with his arm. He's completed just over 61% of his passes. He's thrown 7 touchdowns to 1 interception. He's also rushed for 5. Kyron Williams is putting together a good season. So is Sebo Flemister and Chris Tyree. And Javon McKinley and Michael Mayer are really good receivers. But Notre Dame has an underrated defense. They're ball hawks. They have 4 interceptions this year. They have 3 fumble recoveries. Isaiah Foskey, Adedokunbo Ogundeji, and Dalen Hayes are all talented pass rushers. This is a very well-rounded Notre Dame team. Give Brian Kelly a ton of credit. The best coach in ACC history. He's never lost a game in the ACC. Never. Ultimately, I think the lack of Trevor Lawrence hurts the Tigers too much. I think the Fighting Irish can take advantage of it. It's at Notre Dame. I know Clemson is favored. That surprises me to no end. But give me the Fighting Irish. No New York Jets instant recap this week. I'll recap them on the Tuesday episode of the Jacob Valk Show. You'll get that regular episode in the afternoon, along with every other weekday episode. On Wednesday, you're going to get the big 2-round NBA mock draft that I'm going to do with my buddy Nick Warnberger via Zoom. I'm not sure how long it's going to be, but I'll tell you, I don't care how long it takes. I love doing 2-round NBA mock drafts. And just for whatever it's worth, even if there are trades done before the draft, we're not going to go back and revise our mock draft. That's going to drive us all way too nuts. We're only doing one. It's a week before the draft. And it's the order that it is right now. Not going to go crazy with revisions. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that all the Mets' road wins against LA this year have been at Dodger Stadium.